Thank you very much. Thank you all for showing up tonight, and virtual or in person. We certainly appreciate the interest and are anxious to hear from you this evening. I'm Terry Reiner, Director of Parks and Recreation. Roosevelt Lyons is also here to be kind of co-hosting on site. I'd like to start off with a few words of introduction from Commissioner Chris Good off of our park board. So Commissioner Good, if you could start us off, that'd be great.
Commissioner, are you on? You may need to unmute yourself. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. And Commissioner, if you are on, go ahead and either raise your hand or you can take yourself off mute and let us know. So as Terry said, thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you for being patient while we work out some of these bugs. We are attempting to go live at the same time as we're doing this virtual, so this is new for us, so just bear with us as we work through this technology. So thanks again for joining us tonight. This is actually our second meeting to discuss how we want to honor Dr. King. This was a process that we had started some time ago when the mayor asked the Parks Board to look into this issue and to engage the public and figure out some ways for the city to appropriately honor Dr. King. So as I said, this is the second meeting. We had one back on December 8th. And that one was all virtual, and we had about 50 or 60 people on that. So this is our kind of continued effort to give everybody an opportunity to weigh in, give their thoughts on how to honor Dr. King. And I do see that Commissioner Good is online with his assistant. I'll hand it over to him so he can say just a couple words real quick.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Say hi.
Hi.
My name is Chris Good. I am a member of the Board of Commissioners for Parks and Rec, and this is my handy assistant, Levin Good. We won't be before you long. We just want to.
And I have lollipop.
And he has his lollipop. So it's definitely a dad's night. But I wanted to. This is something that I'm really passionate about, so I still wanted to make it a point to be a part of it. I'm a local business owner. I'm just a guy who is very, very passionate about Kansas City, all things Kansas City, and all sectors of the city. The public sector is fairly new to me, being a volunteer for the board. But I just want to kind of set the tone and just, level set and let you all know what our goal is. Our goal tonight is to really offer a listening ear, multiple listening ears. This isn't a space where we want our passion about our city to overflow in a way that's counterproductive. We want to be able to engage with each other, provide new thought patterns, new thought ways, but in a way that's productive. Dr. King was somebody that he stood for all people. He stood for equality. He stood for the have-nots, the less thans, but in a way that wasn't divisive, in a way that was uniting. And I think that is the perfect tone for us to carry into this engagement session. Is we have to look at each other, even, me being a board member, Roosevelt being a staff member of Parks, the tether that ties us all together is that we all love Kansas City. And if we keep that as a focal point, then I think it'll help for a healthy conversation tonight as we seek to have this session and another soon to come. But our goal is to discuss the thoroughfare of Blue Parkway, Swole Parkway, and Volker to be renamed after Dr. King. And we'll discuss this tonight. We won't make any decisions here tonight, obviously, but we as board members and staff will be very intently listening. Levin will be listening as well, in between lollipop licks. But we really appreciate everybody for making the time to come out and be a part of this discussion. I think that as a city, one of the most important things for us to remember, whether it's about this subject or any other subject, is that the more engagement, the more dialogue, the more involvement that we can have from as many parts of the city, as many diverse people as possible, the better we'll be as a city. Because we'll have a more rounded input, more well-rounded input. And so I'll leave you with that. I'll leave it in the very, very capable hands of Roosevelt Lyons. Honored to be here with you all. I'll be on mute because he's 2. He thinks he's 12, but he's 2. And so I'll just be listening in and engage where I can. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, Commissioner. And thanks, Levin. I'm going to trust that Levin's going to keep the commissioner in line. So I'm going to talk briefly kind of about our agenda for today. This meeting is going to be a little different. If you were here, if you had a chance to participate last time in December, you'll see that we do it a little different. So this is not your normal public engagement where, you know, individuals come, they have 2 minutes at the microphone to voice their opinion, and then they go sit down. So what we're really trying to do is foster some actual communication and conversation around this topic because we think it's worth it. We think it's, you know, worth more than just 2 minutes at the mic. We think it's worth having conversations with your neighbors, whether that's in person or actually virtually. So what we're going to do today is, Commissioner just gave our welcome. We'll do a quick check-in. So we'll just go around the horn. I'll call on you, give us your name, what part of the city you are in, and also why you chose to join us tonight. That's going to be our check-in and our introduction. I'll set some ground rules for the next hour or so and how we're going to handle this. I'll discuss our breakout groups. So you guys are all going to be broken out into smaller groups, virtually or in person. And you're going to have a table facilitator. One of our staff members are going to be at your table. Doug Schrader, Esther Swanson, Kelly Jander, Leslie Alford, or myself. And we'll have some discussion about how to honor Dr. King. After we finish with that discussion, oh, I'm sorry, before we get there, we'll actually do a little bit of a backtrack and talk about a little bit of history and how we kind of got to this point. So we'll talk about some of the past efforts on how to honor Dr. King, including Mayor James's commission that he formed, the Save the Paseo process that happened then, and some of the other recent actions the park board took. So after we've done that, I'll open it up for questions, and then we'll actually break out into our small groups for about 20 to 30 minutes of discussion. After that, everybody's gonna come back into the large room, and then we'll kind of do a report out. So those table facilitators are there to listen to you, ask questions, kind of document what's said, and then report back out to the larger group. So that's going to be the process that we use tonight. If you have any questions, like I said, there will be time for questions after we kind of talk about some of the actions that we have taken around this honoring of Dr. King. But if you have any questions at any point, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll ask some of our staff to just, if I'm in the middle of a rant, to let me know, and we'll try to get that question answered. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm just going to allow everybody just to give just a really brief introduction, introduce yourself, tell us what part of the city you're coming in from, and then also kind of why you joined us. So I'm just going to work down my list. You'll have to unmute yourself. I think I can do it for you, but go ahead and do it yourself. I see one hand is raised already, so I'll just start with Mo. If you want to introduce yourself and tell us why you joined us and where you're from.
I'm going to use the chat. I deal with essential tremor. Okay.
Understood.
Thank you.
Did you want to give us a quick introduction and just tell us what part of the city you're from?
I'm going to put it in chat.
Got it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next on my list is Alexander Chavez.
Hi, my name is Alexander Chavez. I am from the Sheffield neighborhood. That's where I'm at right now. And I joined because I'm working with Center of Neighborhoods through UMKC for the QLID project. And so just wanted to see how I can use this meeting to help with like our research as well.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us tonight. And we're excited to be working with the Center for Neighborhoods on our QLIT project, which we'll hear more about here in the future. Brad Johnson. Brad. Well, we can come back to you, Brad. Brenna Taylor or Brenna Talley. You want to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Sure. I'm Brenna Talley. I currently own in Waldo. When this started, I was living in Midtown renting. So I've also owned east of the Paseo, and I'm just kind of interested to know what everybody's talking about with it. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Ms. Gail Hill-Suber.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gail Hill-Suber. I live in Midtown, Kansas City, and I'm here because I care. And I'm here because we had a national embarrassment in Kansas City when we tore down the name of Dr. King on the our first attempt to give him a boulevard. And it's high time and overdue time that we honor this man bigger than life. And as we come to the end of Black History Month, this is the appropriate time to designate this. And I'm sad that we are not making the decision tonight. I'm sad because we're not going to finally decide to do this, but we are talking about doing this, and that's very good.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin Woolfolk.
Good evening, everyone. As Roosevelt said, I'm Kevin Woolfolk. Now I'm actually with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Greater Kansas City. And of course, Dr. King is our national founder. So we're very much interested in getting this done and honoring our founder with a street, which has been a desire of our organization for now going on, well, it's more than 50 years actually since its assassination. So we're here to listen and to discuss this topic as well. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Woolfolk. Luke Martin, Luke X. Martin.
Yeah, my name is Luke Martin. I'm a reporter at KCUR 89.3, the NPR affiliate here in Kansas City. I also am here just to listen you know, in the process of reporting this ongoing story.
Thank you for joining us. And then I see a phone number calling in ending in 9081. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can. If not, you can always chime in later. And I do have somebody here in person. Would you like to introduce yourself, ma'am?
I'm Margaret Stafford.
Margaret Stafford.
I'm with the Associated Press.
Thank you. Thank you all for introducing yourself, and thank you for joining us this evening. As I said, tonight, our goal here is to figure out what is an appropriate way to honor Dr. King. There's been many suggestions, there's been processes in the past, but we want to figure out what's the most appropriate thing for Kansas City right now. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about, give you a bit of a brief timeline on kind of how we got here, some of the actions that have been taken in the past, and then I'll open it up for some questions. So if you're seeing my screen right now, so this process of how to honor Dr. King is not a recent one. Going back to January of 2016, Congressman Cleaver actually started meeting with members of clergy here in Kansas City who are located on the Paseo to develop a proposal to rename the Paseo. Then we get up to October of 2016, where they sent a letter over to the Parks Board, who oversees the city's parkways, boulevards, including the Paseo, with a recommendation, a proposal to actually rename the Paseo after Dr. Martin Luther King. At that time, and I'll skip ahead a little bit to March of 2018, where at that point, after some discussion and with SCLC, the Parks Board actually came back and wanted to do a little more community engagement around this topic. And so at that point, they wanted to retain the name of the Paseo, but they wanted to continue the conversation. Wanted to figure out what was the appropriate way to honor Dr. King. So at that point, the Paseo was, the Parks Board did not support renaming the Paseo. And then we get a little further. I'm going to skip up here to April of 2018, where Mayor Sly James announced the formation of an advisory committee. And that committee's purpose was to come up with, to engage the public and also to look into some recommendations for how to appropriately honor Dr. King. And in June of 2018, that advisory group wrapped up its work and made its recommendations to City Council. Hold on. So shortly after that, hold on. So just for a little background on the committee that Mayor James had formed. Like I said, it was established in 2018 in April, and its goal was to seek input from the community and provide recommendations. The top recommendations that came out of that advisory committee at the time was naming the new airport terminal after Dr. King, naming 63rd Street to honor Dr. King, and also naming the Paseo to honor Dr. King. Once they presented those to City Council accepted those recommendations in August of 2018. And then in October of 2019, there was an actual ordinance that was passed. The ordinance number was 180828, which officially changed the name, or was introduced in that October to change the name to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And then in January of 2020, that actually happened. So I'm sure everybody recalls back in November 5th of 2020, residents actually voted to return the name back to the Paseo. Shortly after that, Mayor Lucas tasked the Parks Board with gathering some input on how to appropriately honor Dr. King. Residents were able to register their opinions via email for about 90 days. We had roughly 600 actual emails come in with about 482 kind of different suggestions that were submitted. Suggestions generally fell into a few columns. Either they were wanting to rename a street, the airport was a big one, of course, rename a fountain, or rename a park. Some of the top suggestions were the airport terminal, which was the top kind of vote getter in that process. 63rd Street was another top vote getter. Mill Creek Parkway Fountain, which was formerly the Nichols Fountain, got a lot of votes, as well as Troost. So that's where that was. So recently, some recent actions that our park board has taken when we talk about honoring Dr. King and reconciling history, Commissioner Good actually made a formal request to rename the Nichols Fountain and Parkway, to remove the name J.C. Nichols from both that fountain and Parkway. That proposal, the reason why the removal was Mr. Nichols had participated and created many policies, was responsible for creating policies to promote segregation, redlining, and in a lot of Kansas City neighborhoods. We felt like that was not an appropriate representation of the city. And many citizens agree. We had 2 public meetings that were held in partnership with the Kansas City Public Library. And on June 30th, the board voted unanimously to remove the name Jason Nichols, both from the fountain and from the Parkway. Currently, park staff has met with SCLC over the summer. At that time, we worked with SCLC, who still felt very passionately about how to honor Dr. King. We identified some key criteria for honoring Dr. King, and some of those were a roadway with major quantities of mile, assures direct exposure to Black lives, meaning it had to go through a neighborhood that was predominantly African-American or had a high percentage of African-Americans within the Central City economic development boundaries. And lastly, it was a parkway or a boulevard. So staff came up with some suggestions, and one of those that is currently being considered is 350 Highway Swope Boker Boulevard. That recommendation is actually still on the table. The Parks Board is still considering that. SCLC submitted a formal letter in support of this on August 14th. Parks Board held a hearing on September 15th, and now we're continuing to have that conversation so we can continue to get feedback from all of you. As I said, this proposal is still under consideration. It's one of the topics we'll talk about tonight as we break out into our small groups. But that's where we are currently. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing and I am going to open it up for questions from anybody in the audience who has a question about anything or a comment so far. You can unmute yourself or raise your hand or type it into the chat bar. I'm just looking at the chat bar now. Okay, well, if there are no questions, what we would like to do now is break out into some small groups and just have some discussion on this topic of how to honor Dr. King. So what I'm going to do now, so first let me just introduce a couple of staff members since they're on the call. Jen Jett, who has set up this meeting, who is going to be getting you guys all into your small groups. Esther Swanson, who's going to be one of the table facilitators. I believe we have Leslie Alford online as well, who will be a facilitator. Doug Schrader, also on the line to help facilitate some of this conversation, and of course myself. So with that said, if there's no questions, we're going to take a break and get into our small groups. Jen?
Yep, so what's going to happen now is we're going to have two small group breakouts, and just one question for you, Roosevelt. How many participants are in the room, and would you like them in one of the virtual rooms as well?
Would you like to join one of our rooms? She says she would not like to join the room, so yeah, nobody here.
Okay. All right, so everyone is going to see that the breakout rooms will come across your screen, and then you'll just accept and move over to your room. Okay, so I kept Roosevelt and Alan out of a room, but I can place you in a room if you'd like.
We place me in a room, maybe. Room one. Yeah, room one is.
All right, for those of you in room 2, it looks like Doug is just moving away to a quieter place. So we'll just wait a second until he's moved over, and then we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. I just heard Terry and I just went into a different room because we were in the main room and we didn't want to have you guys.
All right, so Uh, really, just to restate our goal for being here tonight, we, as a department and as a city, really, we want to find an appropriate way to honor Dr. King. You know, there have been a lot of ideas going out, and we know that everyone really has an idea. They have a lot of just really strong feelings about this, and it makes sense. He was an amazing civil rights leader, and we want to do the best we can to honor him. So one of the things while we're going through these questions is try to think about someone in your own life who means a lot to you. And this could be a relative or a community member, church member, just anyone who has just really gone above and beyond and exemplified leadership and just love of community. And kind of think about if you had the power to honor them in the community, how would you do that? And try to think about that while you are discussing, because that, you know, that might help you kind of come up with some ideas on what you feel is the best way we could honor Dr. King. So for our first kind of prompt, and
hey, real quick, Esther, Carol Green is going to join me in my room, so I just wanted to let you know.
oh, hi, Carol. It's so good to see you.
Hi. Well, she was here in the audience, so she just came in my room.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm so happy she did. So the first prompt for y'all to think about and respond to, if you feel moved to, is what do you think it would mean to the city or to you personally if we were able to find an appropriate way to honor Dr. King? And if you want to speak to that, you can unmute yourself or raise your hand. But if you need to like think for a second to formulate that thought, feel free to. Don't feel pressured to just, you know, jump right at it.
I'll share if there's awkward silence while everybody else is formulating. I think for me personally, just I think in light of where we are as a country, for us to finally, you know, do something that's in my opinion far overdue, I think it would be a bright spot for everybody in Kansas City, a moment to celebrate, a moment to say, hey, we're moving forward, but as a single city. So I think that for me personally, I would really love to see it. I think that it will be a cool thing for my son to see and even understand why it's important. So I think it'd be a really, really cool moment to really see a shift in our city on many levels, because Dr. King just stood for everybody. It wasn't for one group. It was for everybody.
Thank you for sharing that. Leslie's taking notes. I'm also just kind of typing out some themes that come across. So if I move into awkward silence, that's why. Would anyone else like to share anything?
I'll chime in. I think to a little bit echo that, it would be a really good time, despite our, as another person that was in the audience mentioned, kind of national embarrassment about naming the street and then removing it. We could really highlight a thoughtful decision made by a major metropolitan city during a time of high social unrest in the, you know, the forefront of everyone's mind these days. So I don't mean to make that like sound PR spinny or anything, but I think it's a really great opportunity for us to, like I said, make a thoughtful, informed decision.
Thank you for sharing that. So I'm gonna leave that prompt or that question out there for y'all to continue to think about while we're discussing. I'm gonna move on to the second question, but if you have something that kind of links back to that, please share it. This is pretty informal, so we can jump around as much as we need. So kind of the second thing to discuss or think about is, do you have any thoughts about, oh, Mo has something. Oh, happy early birthday, first of all. So she says, there are so many people, she's inclined to think that the airport name could be unique in recognizing all the women of Metro KC and Quindaro, Sarah Rector, Mamie Eisler, Ruby Russell, Mina Perry, etc., and more of a panoramic recognition. And plus, Northland historically has to reconcile its role with enslaved people as well as white flight. No, that's some really good input. Thank you, Mo. So kind of the second question. So do you have any thoughts on the list of suggestions that Roosevelt shared? So you saw that a lot of people felt strongly about the airport or about 63rd Street. And then he has brought up the current proposal of kind of that Volker Boulevard 350 corridor. And he didn't show a map. So if you're unfamiliar with what he's talking about, it's the stretch of road of Volker Boulevard, which begins at kind of the Plaza Library and moves east from there, just on the south side of Brush Creek. And then it turns into Swope Parkway around, I think, either Rock Hill or the Paseo. And then it, where Swope Parkway turns south towards Swope Park, it turns into Blue Parkway and then continues east until 350. But it essentially follows the whole south bank of Brush Creek. So I don't know if that wasn't clear or if I've just made it less clear through that, but I just kind of wanted to share that. And the reason that has been suggested is because it does connect kind of that west side central business district of town along over to neighborhoods that are predominantly Black or African American. And so it's quite a long stretch of road and also links to parts of the community that have been pretty forcefully separated historically in this city. So with that suggestion or 63rd Street or the airport, are there any that really stand out to you? Anything that you really like, anything that you don't really agree with?
Hi, this is Brenna. I have to take myself off video for a minute, but can you tell me again how far west that would stretch? I'm familiar with the road. It does change quite a bit throughout the city. But yeah, how far west does it go?
It goes as far as about the Plaza Library. It might go in like another block or so west. I think it may actually go to where Mill Creek Parkway kind of stops.
Okay,
So,
I agree. I would agree with that's what I was thinking in my mind. For some reason, my impression is that naming a building is a little more impactful than a street. And I don't know why I feel that way. Maybe streets are more common and buildings more so people say, oh, I don't know, it's more noticeable. So this is just an observation, maybe.
Okay.
And oh, I'm sorry. I should have written all my comments down so I could say them all at once. I apologize.
Sure.
But it's informal, reminder. The explanation that there was some recommendations from the SCL, I'm not going to say that acronym correctly, but I think you know what I mean.
Sure.
I think that's really important information for the larger community to understand when and if a recommendation along a street name change comes along. Because that was news to me, and I'm just kind of attending today because I'm interested in this and I've lived nearby the areas that this is affected already, and I want to just follow it and be more informed. And I think that that's valuable detail for the recommendations, considering on the numbers that were shown on that slide, SWOPE wasn't listed. So I don't think a lot of people will logically be like, oh, of course.
Sure, that's a good point. And then Jen just said, we'll do about another 10 minutes of discussion and return to the main room. Thank you, Jen. Does anyone else have any kind of immediate reactions or thoughts, or maybe when those questions first went out and we were gathering public input, was there something that you might have submitted at the time and had some strong feelings about, or just some really good ideas?
There we go. There you go. Sorry.
Hi, I think that the idea would be appreciated by the community, multiple community groups that I associate with, and myself, of Blue Parkway that stretch from Boker to 350. I think that is connecting neighborhoods, businesses, communities, housing, the MLK Park. I think it's just a wonderful situation. I like that idea a lot. And I think that what we're doing is very, very important. If I had anything to say, I am wondering where people are to engage, to take an opportunity of these listening sessions to engage. If I had an area of concern, I think that it should be more, and I don't know if it's because of COVID or what have you, and I'm reflecting back on when they had the street signs on for sale. People were saying, I didn't know. I wasn't told. First I heard about it, but this is valuable. And I am so elated that Kansas City Parks and Recreation by assignment is taking this initiative and doing very well.
I think one of the things that often gets overlooked about this particular stretch that is primarily being proposed is, if I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, it would allow for there to be name recognition on 71 Highway. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, there are like exit signs along there, and so that is a good point.
Yep. I think
formerly known as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, the Paseo, William Voker, and Thomas Swope are names that at least symbolize something significant. Now, with that said, replacing their name on this boulevard would not cause them, because of that, would not cause them to fade into oblivion. So we like this idea, and we're focused on that. Now, beyond that, we have not come out against the park. I've been in on a number of the conversations they've had about the park. I think everything's good. My only difference was the hill and the ropes. I feel the ropes, they need to kind of tone that down a little bit because ropes are instruments of terror and oppression for a lot of Black people. But outside of that, what they're doing with the park, they're doing a wonderful thing with that park. So we're not resisting that. So to answer your question, we haven't really discussed any ideas at this point because we just want to get this one done.
I understand.
Thank you. I hope I didn't go on too long.
It's too late if you did.
Oh, okay.
Luke, did you want to weigh in?
You know, I'm here as a reporter, just kind of observing. I mean, I would love to ask Gail and maybe Kevin a question, if that would be okay.
Sure.
Gail, Kevin mentioned that his group has been fighting for a way to honor MLK for 50 years. Why do you think it's taken so long? Same question to you, Kevin.
As Kevin said, resistance to Black progress. And I am a member of SCLC as well. That's all this is, resistance to Blacks moving forward and honoring our people as we should. Even though America was built on our backs, the blood, sweat, and tears of our people.
Thank you, Gail. My answer to that is pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And as great as Dr. King is, it's just that white people don't revere our heroes at the level that they revere their own. When Dr. King talked about integration, he wasn't just talking about Black people and white people that live in the same neighborhood. It's about acceptance. It's about accepting. I accept you for who you are. You accept me for who I am. We're all Americans. That's what our founder was all about, acceptance. And no, maybe white people will never revere Dr. King at the level that Black people are, but they have to respect the fact that our founder did wonderful things to make this country the beacon of freedom that it is right now. And if we have to force them to accept it, because it's not going to hurt anything, it's not going to hurt a thing. It's going to make America be that beacon on the hill that we talk about all the time. It's time to get this done in Kansas City. We should have had it done a long time ago. This shouldn't take 50 years. We shouldn't have to battle it right now. So that's where I am on it. Now, we understand there will always be differences, but differences wasn't invented when Dr. King was born. It didn't come into play after he was assassinated. We have differences, we're going to have them, but we have to respect the fact that if Dr. King was a white man, we wouldn't have the discussion right now. His name would be on that street, and his name would have never been torn off the street before. The Black community in the wards where Black people live voted to keep his name there. Black people voted, the majority in the wards and districts they lived in, voted to keep his name up. 70 to 80% of white people, and I saw some, close to 90% of white people in the areas where they live voted to pull our founder's name down. So there's a racial issue here. So we have to judge if this is the right thing to do. We feel it's the right thing to do, and we implore the commission to vote affirmatively to get this passed.
Thanks, Kevin, and thank you, organizers, for allowing me that question.
No problem, Luke. Jen's on. Jen, you're here, aren't you? Yeah. I think we're about ready to end the breakout session. Kevin, can I ask a favor? We're going to report back when we get back to the whole group. Would you report out for us? I think your comments are valid, and I don't think I can be as concise and succinct as you have been tonight. I would appreciate you just to kind of talk about what we talked about in a short little statement at the end of this. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. So Jen, I think you can release us back to the group, okay? Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have everyone returning from the breakout groups. Might just take a couple minutes for everyone to get back in, or a minute.
30 seconds. 10.
I got lost, Jen, but there was a sign and I found my way back in here, so.
Good.
All right, looks like we got everybody back. I'm sure there was some great conversation. Thanks, Jen, for getting us all in our breakout rooms and not losing us as well.
Hold on, I think we lost a whole room. Just stand by for a second.
Too soon.
I said we should wait just a second. I don't see Esther's room coming back yet.
Don't go towards the light.
Okay, it looks like their room is closing, but it's gonna be about a minute. So if we want to just take a couple seconds, they should be back in just a little bit.
Thank you.
What happened to Kevin?
He may have been in Esther's room. Let's see if he comes back with the rest of them. Oh. Huh.
Does anybody need water?
I'm not sure, Gail. Hopefully he'll pop back in.
Welcome back, Esther, Room Esther. All right, well, thanks everybody for the conversation and coming back. Glad everybody made it. So we just want to take a couple minutes now, and if each room could just be assigned a, if the table facilitator or somebody else is going to do the report out, just take a couple, we're just going to take a couple minutes each room, do a brief report out so that we have this, and then we will break. We'll talk about next steps, and then we'll break for the evening. So Doug, you want to go first? Doug's room?
I think, Roosevelt, we've asked Kevin to report out for our group.
Is he back on yet?
Yes, yeah, he's here.
Okay, oh, good. All right, Mr. Woolfolk, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Doug, and thank you, Roosevelt. Well, it may be that our room, because of me, was dominated more about how we need to get this street done. You know, so Roosevelt, you know me, I get on my soapbox about this issue. And because Kansas City, it's time to step up.
I'm with you, Kevin.
Yeah, it's time to show the rest of the country and the world that we are that progressive, inclusive city that we say we are. You know, I moved here from St. Louis, Missouri back in 1984. So I've been living here for a long time. And this issue has been a thorn in my side for a very, very long time. But at the events that took place in 2019, and I'm not going to go too much off into detail in some of those events, but and some of the things that were said about SCLC and what we were doing and how we disenfranchised people and all this other stuff, I'm more committed than ever to get this done. And I put a lot of time into it, and I'm glad to put time into it because this man deserves a street in our city, a major boulevard in our city. You know, he deserves to be on that street. He should still be on the street that he was on before. So our room was dominated, I guess I could say, by me and dominated the conversation, but not intentionally, but it's just where our heart is. And I feel that both of us are in the right place on that. That's all I'm going to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time tonight, and thanks for the report out. I'll kick it over to Esther's room.
All right, thank you both. Leslie and I were taking notes, so I can kind of share some of the themes that were coming up in our group, and then I'll ask Leslie to share anything that stood out to her. And then if I'm missing anything, members of my group, please feel free to correct me or chime in. So members of our group also brought up that this is a really good time. I mean, long ago would have been a better time, but this is a good time to right that wrong and find a way to move forward in sort of a unified fashion, and just really honor Dr. King and put some thought into what we're doing. But also one of the points that was made was that, you know, however we honor him, aside from it being thoughtful, it should be more than scenery, more than just a sign. There should be information and context and just a way, almost like a cultural heritage trail sort of thing, where people can learn about his legacy if they don't know, and learn more about the impact he's had on the community.
And I just was going to add, Commissioner Good made a good point about the recommendation for 350 to Volker, is that the signage on Interstate 71 or 49, Interstate 49, Highway 71 will be very prominent if we do choose that route. And it'll give a lot of recognition to MLK Boulevard, and will go along a lot of those other iconic things that we have, like Bruce R. Watkins, the MLK Park, and some other things.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie and Esther and everybody that was in that room. Thanks so much for everybody's feedback and input. We will be using this. So this is, as I said, our second session. We'll have one more session on March 8th. We present all this information to our board as they make these decisions on the current renaming, and as well as any other suggestions that have come up. The next session will be March 8th. Feel free to join it if you want. It'll be much the same format. Hopefully we've worked out all the bugs, but it'll be a similar format. We'll be excited to be there. I do believe that the board is, I don't want to speak for the board, we'll be tentatively taking up this, finishing up this vote on the current proposal sometime this spring. So stay tuned, and you can always check out kcparks.org for information and time for our board and the agenda. I do also want to just comment as we're talking about Dr. King. If you haven't heard, there's some significant improvements. We do have one park that is named for Dr. King, which is just west of 71 on Swole Parkway, and we are excited about a new destination playground that the 15th and Mahomes Foundation is sponsoring. It'll be about $1 million project that'll go in there. It'll be one of the most groundbreaking playgrounds that we have in our system. It'll also include some educational features around our local civil rights history, possibly Dr. King, and a lot of that planning is still going on. Just this Tuesday, we were in an engagement session, a community feedback session as well. We got a lot of good feedback and a lot of good participation. So I am constantly just excited by how much residents continue to turn out, give their opinion, voice themselves in a way that's respectful. So I do appreciate everybody's time this night, and every time anybody comes and decides they want to jump on one of these. So with that said, I'm going to close this out and just say thank you, everybody, and I hope everybody has a good night and enjoy this weather. So,
thank you, Roosevelt, and thank you everyone for attending. I do want to mention that we are tentatively planning to do the groundbreaking for the improvements at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Park on March the 15th. Watch our website and that'll be coming up quickly. The goal is to have that done by mid-August. And I believe it is just serving as a catalyst to other improvements in the park. We got a letter of intent from a local company that they're gonna contribute a shelter to the value of about $160,000, including the construction. So hopefully this continues to be a project that goes from the Paseo to Elmwood. And just like that, Gail mentioned, you've got Freedom Fountain, you've got Bruce R. Watkins Cultural Heritage Center. Hopefully we'll have this roadway, you've got the park, and then Pedestrian Bridge is our next big goal so that we can make sure we connect the north and the south sides of the creek, and then all neighborhoods can get to the park, to the cultural corridor, and walk and learn and experience hopefully some activities along that trail. So very excited. I really appreciate everyone's passion and comments tonight. And we look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully you can join us again on the 8th of March virtually or live at the Southeast Community Center. So thank you again, everyone. Be safe, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.